Good afternoon and thank you for joining us. This is Weekend at 1 with the very latest news from Kenya and beyond. My name is Yanofula. Welcome to the program. Now, Deputy President William Ruto's case at the ICC could be headed for confrontation between the prosecution and the defense, with new evidence now allowed to be presented before the judges. Senior members of the Jubilee administration and a number of Deputy President William Ruto's advisors have held multiple crisis meetings in response to the massive blow dealt to his case at the International Criminal Court (ICC) that would allow evidence from witnesses who refused to testify or recanted their evidence altogether. At least 3 meetings have been held since Wednesday night in the backdrop of the sobering reality interpreted by lawyers that the case had taken a sharp turn for the worse and that it would take longer to break free from the stranglehold of the Hague Court.
How are you, brother? I'm okay. I'm very good.
Elsewhere, human rights activist Alamin Kimathi has raised the alarm over the continued disappearance of Muslim men. Kimathi says though the war on terror and violent extremism is justified, investigations need to be carried out in order to bring to book those involved in forced disappearances, as human rights and the rule of law have been observed at all times. He was speaking in Murang'a County, where bodies of 3 Muslim men were found dumped along Maragua River last Tuesday. We shall have that story a bit later on in our bulletin. Now, moving on to a bit of politics, and Machakos Governor Alfred Mutua yesterday took his Maendeleo Chap-Chap campaigns to neighboring Makueni County and said that the movement was not aimed at dividing the Kamba community but seeking political and economic liberation for the region. Mutua said that those alleging that he was dividing the Kamba community were only interested in perpetuating the politics of poverty. The county governor, Kivuta Kibwana, did not attend the meeting and was said to be attending a funeral on Wednesday. Professor Kibwana said that he supports Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka as a Ukambani political kingpin. Machakos Governor Alfred Mutua on Saturday took his Maendeleo Chap-Chap campaigns to neighboring Makueni County and said that, quote-unquote, the movement was not aimed at dividing the Kamba community but seeking political and economic liberation for the region.
People are scared of change. But as somebody said the other day, change whose time has come is unstoppable. Totally unstoppable.
Dr. Mutua said those alleging that he was dividing the Kamba community were only interested in perpetuating the politics of poverty. Recently, Mutua was quoted saying that the time for development in the entire eastern region has come and those trying to oppose his development agenda will not make it.
Tumbo zimeharibika, wanalala kwa choo. Kwa sababu wanafikiri tunaharibu siasa ya Ukambani. Na sisi tunasema siasa ya njaa hatuitaki. Wananchi wanataka maendeleo. Sisi hatutaki viti. Sisi tunataka tuone maendeleo ya haki imefika hapa.
Mutua ni gavana wa na tunajua kuna mpango. Kuna wanapanga ati Songo alafu Machakos yasimame.
In a move likely to cause ripples in eastern region politics, Mutua's visit did not end without politics emerging. Some of the leaders opposed to the proposal by former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka to lure Nairobi Senator Mike Sonko into Kamba politics. And back to that story that we had earlier about mysterious deaths, human rights activist Alamin Kimathi has raised the alarm over the continued disappearance of Muslim men. Kimathi says that though the war on terror and violent extremism is justified, investigations need to be carried out in order to bring to book those involved in forced disappearance, as human rights and the rule of law have been observed at all times. He was speaking in Murang'a County, where bodies of 3 Muslim men were found dumped along Maragua River last Tuesday.
Our appeal is to the government of the Republic of Kenya to probe, to investigate this, but because they are bringing out a lot of resentment within the society. The bodies, without a doubt, belong to male Muslim young men who believe are targets of the state in this campaign against violent extremism and veering towards terrorism. Indeed, we do believe there is a very big justification for the government to counter violent extremism and counter terrorism in this country. Very, very big. The terrorism is a threat, no doubt about that. We need to go very, very zealously and investigate and bring to book and counter it at the to the very core. But we can only do that when we observe the law, the rules of justice. We need to observe the human rights of the people, and also where really it's not the government that is involved, then we need to see people being brought to book.
And on matters development, former Prime Minister and CODCO principal Raila Odinga has insisted that Africans should be at the forefront in efforts to improve their own continent. Raila said that even though the Millennium Development Goal projections come to a close in a week's time, Africans should have confidence in their ability to develop their own continent using education as one of the key tools, even as university education shifts towards greater equitability and quality as opposed to an all-inclusive education model. Raila was speaking during the 37th graduation ceremony at the United States International University in Nairobi.
Challenges, both here at home and across the globe. The Millennium Development Goals are coming to an end, as you all know. In a week's time, the world leaders will gather in New York to declare an end to the MDGs and unveil the Sustainable Development Goals. The post-2015 university education agenda is moving from education for all to education 2030, which focuses on ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education and lifelong learning for all. So I'm standing before you here as a Pan-Africanist and an Afro-optimist. Afro-optimists as opposed to Afro-pessimists. Afro-pessimists are those who have given up on Africa. Those who say Africa is a lost cause, a basket case. But Afro-optimists are those who believe in the ability of the African people to develop Africa.
And residents of Maragua in Murang'a County woke up this morning to a rude shock as a stray leopard had last night killed tens of sheep before fleeing. The residents are now calling on the Kenya Wildlife Service to come to the rescue and restrain the leopard, saying that their losses are running to thousands of shillings.
Fear and tension looms at Kaini village of Kamahuhu in Murang'a County after a wild animal suspected to be a leopard invaded a homestead and killed 2 goats. The owner of the goat, Nancy Wanjiku Wanyoike, said the animal attacked her goats early today, saying her goats were worth over 50,000 shillings.
Kama amechukua hii gine alikuwa anakulia kule kwa madizi. Nikamuona ametoroka kama nimepiga mayowe.
Another area resident, David Gitao Mugiro, said so far the leopard has killed 6 goats in the area in the recent past, and they're fearing it might turn to their kids who go to school early in the morning.
Kulijitokeza wanyama kama 3 hivi, na sasa walikuwa wanatuhangaisha sana, na tunataka usaidizi kabisa kutoka hata kama ni kwa serikali.
This has not been the first attack they have experienced, claiming they're regularly visited by wildlife animals.
Ni kama wa 20,000. Na huyu mtoto wake ni kama 10 ama shiriki, ni kama 10.
For some residents such as this lady, she has lost more than just a goat. With the livestock being her source of income, she is able to sell milk and a few goats to improve her livelihood. However, today she is experiencing none of these benefits.
As Kenyans remember the first president of Kenya on this 37th anniversary of his death yesterday, KTN's Nicholas Ombua caught up with one man who was the sole mechanic taking care of Jomo Kenyatta's Mercedes-Benz vehicles in Nairobi. Here's the story of Muhia or Mercedes, as he was fondly referred to by his compatriots.
For quite a while now, he has been working in the informal sector, what Kenyans refer to as the Juakali business in the industrial area of Nairobi. Muya has been a mechanic since his early 20s, but is not just a mechanic. He has specialized in the Mercedes type of vehicles, thus is known to many of his customers as Muya or Mercedes.
Watu wanaulizananga Muya gani? Ile ya Mercedes. Hiyo Mercedes ni ile magari nimespecialize naye. Na ndio natengenezanga hata wa leo.
It was not an easy task for the men of the engines, as they were forced to work around the clock. This was due to the president's tight schedules that needed his vehicles in good state all through.
Na magari zake silikuwa magari 4 Mercedes. Ile ilikuwa official cars. Za kwenda shambani na za kwenda mahali mrefu kama Nakuru, Mombasa na tuseme kama Tanzania. Lakini tulikuwa zote ziwe mobile za zote.
Memories of him being denied permission to travel abroad because the president's team solely depended on him are still fresh in his mind.
Ikawa hatuwezi kupelekwa kutengeza hiyo gari ya president ya kwanza Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. Tukawa hatuwezi kupelekwa shauri, hakuna mtu atawachiwa. Sasa ikabidi tuwe tukitolewa walimu kutoka ng'ambo wanakuja kutufunza, na ikabidi president ya kwanza huyu Mzee Jomo Kenyatta aje kufungua. Sasa wakati alifika hapo alisema aonyeshwe ile mafundi yake wao anasikianga wanatengeza gari yake. Ndio tukawa tumepangwa hapo, tukaonyeshwa yeye, tukasalimiana na yeye, tukapigwa picha na yeye na akatuahidi tukiwa tunamlinda kwa kumtengezea gari hatutahangaika.
Despite the president's promise, efforts to reach him were futile. However, Muya continued with the job during President Moi's regime, but nothing changed from the usual promises.
Nilikuwa nikifikiria kwa vile nilitengezea mapresident ya wawili ya kwanza ya Kenya, President Jomo Kenyatta, President Daniel Arap Moi, mimi nitakuwa mtu shauri nimeweka bidii, na hii bidii yangu hakuna mtu ananiangalia. Mimi nahangaika huko tu kwa jua kali. Hata sasa nikitaka kwenda kuona president naambiwa na huyu nitakupeleka, naambiwa na huyu nitakupeleka, naambiwa na huyu nitakupeleka, na hakuna siku, ni uongo tu tupu.
He now operates this Juakali garage, hoping that the late President Jomo Kenyatta's son, who is the current President Uhuru Kenyatta, can stretch a hand of favor to his father's loyal mechanic.
Ningeona president yetu aone kama iko kitu anaweza fanyia mimi, na pia mimi nifanye kufundisha watu wakuwe kama mimi. Shauri ujuzi ni naye, sasa likuacho namna hiyo itasorota hapa. Shauri za zote sina kimbizwa na kanzu.
Having been the late President Jomo Kenyatta's mechanic for over 9 years, Muyo Masidi says the government he so loved dearly left him in absolute poverty. Nick Wambua, KTN News, Nairobi.
Welcome back. Now, life behind bars is definitely not appealing, but once in a long while, there comes a moment when an inmate can afford to smile, dance, and just relax. And for inmates at the Nairobi Rehabilitation Prison in industrial area, yesterday was their day, as KTN's Timothy Otieno spent the day with the inmates there and now tells the story.
A line of people slowly snakes its way inside Nairobi Rehabilitation Prison. Regular prison activities here have been halted, for you see, nothing is regular about today for the inmates here. Prison authorities have organized an open day that has seen the rehabilitation center packed with family and friends of the inmates. And indeed, the tears could not be held back. Inmates catching up with their loved ones. They're normally not this free to interact. Visiting hours are often limited, but today they'll spend hours chatting. Perhaps none appreciates this opportunity more than 28-year-old David Mwangi. He arrived at this facility in 2013, accused of murder with his mother, who is currently at the Langata Women's Prison. His trial is still ongoing, but for now, that is the least of his worries. He has seen his two daughters for the first time in over 1.5 years. Prison officials here want their inmates to never lose touch with their families on the outside.
We thought it is good to link them up here. It is good to make these parents who are here to be in touch with their children, to follow up with their school progress, to continue playing the role that our parents play.
Many of the inmates here are serving time for capital offenses, but they're using their time quite well. This inmate shows his family his month-long toil. Bead bracelets they'll carry with them home as a reminder of their visit today.
Wafungwa wenzetu wakiwa hapa ndani, mtu ajaribu kubadilika jinsi wanavyofundishwa na maafisa wa gereza.
The officials hope the open day will tighten not only the bonds between inmates and their families, but also the wardens here, with the hope that their rehabilitation process will be much smoother.
So it is such programs that allow the over 3,000 inmates here at the Nairobi Remand Prison to interact with their friends and family, and with the hopes that when they go back to society, they will be embraced as new and rejuvenated individuals. But for today, the song and dance continues here at the prison as they interact with their families and reminisce of the past, the present, and possibly the future. Timothy Otieno, KTN News, Nairobi.
Now, the following story may sound crazy to you, but the matter is of a very serious concern to the people involved. Clergymen and the County Executive for Tourism in Taita Taveta County in Kenya have raised the alarm about demons and other evil spirits causing a myriad of economic problems in their county. They say these forces of darkness have slowed down development in Taita Taveta. Murimi Mwangi with the details.
One of the many misdeeds blamed on evil spirits, and once too often when this happens, clergymen come in handy in exorcising the demons. But in Taita Taveta County, the demons are allegedly doing more than just that. And they are on the prowl, this according to County Executive for Tourism, Mr. Alexander Mwangeka.
Ni maroho ambayo yanaongea kinyume na maendeleo ya county hii.
These skulls are what remains of the shrines where not too long ago residents went out to intercede with the souls of their elders long dead. But now Mr. Mwangeka and clergymen in the county are up in arms claiming evil spirits are operating from here. And the outcome, the many problems bedeviling the county, including joblessness and underdevelopment.
Tumeona wasichana hedhi zao ama monthly periods zikiwa wana overbleed. Hiyo si hali ambayo ni ya kawaida. Tumeona njaa ambayo imekuwa katika kaunti hii, vijana kutokuwa na kazi. Yani kumekuwa na maroho ambayo si ya kawaida, ambayo yananena kinyume na kaunti ya Taita Taveta.
Hatujajinasua katika ile hali ya fikira za zamani ya kutoka katika mambo ya conservative. Hatujiendelezi mbele na tunapenda habari ya kukaa pamoja karibu.
Superstition is not a new topic in Taita Taveta. 3 years ago, this letter, allegedly drafted by members of a devil-worshipping cult, surfaced, purportedly summoning them for a night meeting to discuss the decline of the forces of darkness in the county, a development which ignited a lot of fear among residents here.
Hayo madhabahu ya Figi, madhabahu ya Mbenge, madhabahu ya Mumanga, madhabahu ya Seso, ni lazima madhabahu hayo tukaweze kuyavunja na tuweze kusimamisha madhabahu ya Mwenyezi Mungu, ndio kaunti hii ikaweze kupona.
Sioni kama ni kweli. Ningeomba wao wenyewe washikane, wapendane. Wakishapendana na hizo itikadi zote wazilani kwamba wao ni Wakristo, kama ni Waislamu, wajue kwamba wanamuomba Mungu kwamba itikadi za watu walioondoka walienda na itikadi zao. Na sisi tuliobaki ambao tunamwambia mimi Mungu wa kweli, tumuombe Mungu wa kweli atuondolee hizi shida ambazo zinatupata, kwamba watu wanajinyonga, watu wanarepu watoto wao, mtu anakaa na mtoto wake ama na binamu nani anamuona kwamba ni mwanamke.
For now, Mr. Alexander Mwangeka, the Taita Taveta County Executive for Tourism and Natural Resources, wants residents to turn out in large numbers to pray for the county and rid it of all the demons. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News, Nairobi.
Well, it seems like Weekend at One comes to a close there. My name is Ian Ofula. Our Twitter handle is at KTN News. Do let us know what is happening around you. Up next is how things work for our viewers on KTN News. Enjoy.